3 Roman legions wiped out. So in autumn 9th CE, 3 Roman legions were annihilated by an alliance of Germanic tribes in the Teutoburg Forest. Our story begins in the year 6 CE, when a major revolt against Roman rule flared up throughout Dalmatia and Pannonia, which together comprised the Roman province of Illyricum. For the Romans, it seemed the worst crisis they had experienced since the Second Punic War. It took 3 years to put down the revolt, but an even worse shock was to come with the annihilation of 3 Roman legions in Germany in the year 9. You see, the area of Germany west of the Rhine and east of the Elbe had been recently conquered by Rome and seemed peaceful. So much so that the Roman legate of Lower Germany, Publius Quinctilius Varus, was tasked with integrating it into the empire. Now, Varus had been governor in Syria, and his talents lay in administration rather than being a field commander. His appointment to the German post strongly suggests that Emperor Augustus was either unaware or simply didn't care about the state of affairs in Germany. The Romans seem not to have appreciated the degree to which their rule, especially the taxes, which had to be paid in metal, were resented by the German tribes. But one German in particular, Arminius, prince of the Cherusci, who had commanded German auxiliaries under Rome and had been rewarded with Roman citizenship for his exemplary service, took leadership of the revolt. Although he kept his role secret, even he suggested the route of march for the Roman legions to their winter quarters, and said route happened to take them through several areas where revolts were brewing. In fact, it seems likely that he planned the whole thing. In the summer of 9 CE, Varus set out from his camp near the Weser River with 3 Roman legions, all veterans of fighting in Germany and totaling 15,000 to 18,000 men, including some cavalry. Family members and camp followers accompanied them, as did German auxiliaries, totaling perhaps another 10,000 people. When the attack came, the unsuspecting Romans and their wagons were strung out over a considerable distance in the Teutoburg Forest, most probably near Osnabrück. From archaeological digs at the site and the recovery of numerous Roman coins, none later than 9 CE, over a several-mile stretch, it would appear that the Romans simply marched into an ambush. Arminius had left the Roman column beforehand, having told Varus that he wanted to scout ahead. The German attackers numbered between 20,000 and 30,000 men and held the high ground on one side. There were marshes on the other side, which prevented the Romans from forming their battle lines. Traditional Roman tactics were thus rendered useless, and to top it off, the Romans had a strong wind and rain squall to contend with. Thus, the 3 Roman legions, along with their auxiliary forces and all those who accompanied them, were wiped out. Only a few managed to escape. The disaster was so complete that Varus took his own life. The news of the defeat reached Rome in the spring of 10 CE, but Augustus refused to believe it and sent an embassy to demand proof. When the embassy returned with the grim evidence, the emperor ordered that a temple be built to the deified Varus. But the disaster was not forgotten. It was used by Augustus's successors to justify their reluctance to expand beyond the Rhine. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 9 AD was one of the most catastrophic defeats in the history of the Roman Empire. But how does one go from defeat to victory? On the first day, the Germans engaged in hit-and-run attacks, killing many Romans. And when the dust had settled, Varus threw up breastworks and held the Germans at bay for the night. Hoping that burning the wagons would make the march faster, he ordered them to be set ablaze. This didn't really help, and the Romans retreated to their original fortifications. There, the 3 legions were slaughtered over several days. Only a handful of soldiers managed to escape to the nearby Roman base at Aliso. Varus and his officers preferred to kill themselves rather than be taken prisoner. Indeed, the Germans sacrificed those captured. Although Arminius brought Aliso under siege, he failed to take it and eventually departed. The Roman garrison then abandoned the city and fled. Arminius had the chance to follow up on his great victory by invading Italy or Gaul, but he did neither. The tribes soon fell to quarreling among themselves, which made it impossible for him to do so. Prompt Roman action also secured their control of the Rhine bridges, which cut off his supply and communication lines. And besides, the Roman Senate had declared him an enemy of Rome, which meant that he could now loot without any constraints. although the loss of 3 legions with more than 10% of Rome's military might was a serious blow. Rome's military options were not severely impacted. This is because on learning of the battle, Emperor Augustus immediately disbanded his German bodyguard, saying that no Germans could be trusted. He was also heard to cry, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." The numbers of these 3 legions never were resurrected. Even after Roman operations in 14-16 CE and 41 CE recovered their standards. The battle signaled the end of Roman efforts to expand northward. Augustus was not only jolted to learn that Germany was not pacified, but also was forced to rethink his entire suppositions about the military strength required to garrison the empire. To counter this setback, he reintroduced conscription by the drawing of lots. These levies were not used to create new legions, but rather to augment those already in existence. Augustus also concentrated a third of his strength, 8 legions on the Rhine under his stepson Tiberius, who conducted punitive operations in Germany during 10-12 CE. Germanicus Caesar also campaigned there with 4 legions during 14-16 CE, but made no real attempt at conquest and occupation. In the end, Augustus abandoned plans for a German province between the Rhine and Elbe, thereby fixing Rome's northern boundary on the Rhine and Danube rivers. North Central and Northeastern Europe would not be brought within the Latin cultural and legal systems for several hundred years, and then only as an enhancement rather than a replacement. Subsequent German leaders, including the Nazis, exploited the battle to build national consciousness and unity, presenting it as an example of Germans defending their freedom against foreign invasion.